Well, hi guys, this is Dr. Scott, and today we have Derek Johnson on. We're going to talk about a lot of fun stuff. We were talking a little bit beforehand here with that too, and I know all of you are feeling this, with in different ways. Derek and I just kind of mentioned this, but just like 30 minutes ago, I got very upsetting, email, from the building owner that I'm in, and listen, that kind of stuff can cloud your mind, but we have to walk in the peace of God because, man, it messes you up. And if you knew how many arrows are, pointed at Derek every day of people trying to, beat him up with different things and asking him questions and, and I don't believe you because of this, or I don't believe you because of that. I go, calm down, guys. He doesn't have control of everything happening around you too. So anyway, how you doing though?
Oh, I'm doing great. I mean, I tell people, I told a friend last night, I said, the more hate I have ever had, the better I feel because, sometimes resistance is what leads people to truth because if they don't know it, but if they care, then they go look it up. I tell people this in the beginning. I said, look, if you think that somehow that I'm wrong or whatever terms out there you want to apply to that, then try to prove me wrong, because that's going to make them go read. So if they want to try to prove me wrong, they got to read the material. Then what's going to happen? It reads exactly how it reads, and then what happens? They're red pilled, as we call it. So
Right.
it's a win. It's a win-win. But if you're
Well,
a real warrior, and I don't talk about myself that in first person form, but I'll talk about someone like you. Like if you're a real warrior, then you'll walk knowing that you don't have to prove anything. You know what you stand on because you've already done the research, you've already done the reading, and then someone like me who is a veteran or whatever, of course, being a veteran don't mean you know everything either, but whatever you've done in your life, that's what brought you to this point. So,
well, I always tell people this too. It's a good point that you're saying. I love bringing up old, because I'm into my old military history with that too, and I always think about. I've met many of these veterans, and the same conversation comes out. You go to just after Pearl Harbor. It's December 7th, and actually December 8th is when the lines were filled with men lining up to sign up, and they would be, in our term, the really young Z generation. So that was the greatest generation, right? So they were in the lines ready to sign up with that. The 20, 18-year-olds, sometimes younger than that, and many times they were thinking about their Christmas time frame, and they would say to their family, even it was done in a series called The Pacific, and they were thinking, I think we'll get back here, and we'll be back here next Christmas. That'd be Christmas of 42, and the war will be over. And little did they realize that even by December of 44, that puppy wasn't done yet. And so sometimes military operations take a little longer than you think they do.
and my grandpa lied about his age in 1944, and went and signed up, and so I tell people all the time, I'm living not just for myself, I'm living for the legacy of all my family members that serve, but especially my grandpa and my great uncle that I always talk about, that he lied about his age, and then my great uncle was a Purple Heart at Normandy. So, all those men wanted to go, and it takes a whole different kind of mentality and heart to say, hey, I want to go, I want to do this.
Right. Well, let's jump into some of our topics here with that too. So, and I know you have a feeling about this, but what's your take about this Iran-Israel conflict? I mean, we knew it was brewing, but it's kind of when it hit, it popped almost out of nowhere for a lot of people with that too. So, what have you been noticing about that?
It popped out of nowhere for people who are just now,
Correct.
and I mean this with the most sincerity and all, but it's, I'm trying to find the right way to say it without, I don't want to be offensive to people in the right kind of way, but in another kind of way, I don't care in the good kind of way. But you can't wait till you're almost losing your country to start the fight. All right. And only people who there are people out there that know what you've been doing your whole life. And if I don't know you, then only you know that. So you'll only know if that you feel that feeling. But you can't wait till you're almost losing your country to want to fight. The Iran-Israeli thing has been going on longer than me, all right, that I've been alive. You can really go back. We could go before, but a real good starting date would be 1966 with Iran. And then the 6-Day War in Israel, 67, which has major implications on everything. And then you move forward just a few years after that, 79. And I don't mind telling my age at this point. I used to keep my age hidden because of country music reasons. I don't care anymore. But I'm 42 years old. All right. The longest, oldest national emergency executive order that we have right now in United States law. All right. Order, presidential order, executive order, exactly the term, executive, ladies and gentlemen, executive branch, executive order. It's 1979. That's older than me. Guess who that's with? Iran. All right. So one of the first things President Trump did during the time he said there's a storm coming, and a reporter said, "What storm?" You'll find out. That was during the talks of him tearing up the Iran deal by Obama. All right. And even in 2015, Obama was accused of breaking law with the exchange of bird dog. All right. I can tell you
1.7 billion that he gave too.
Yeah, billion. And then another 150 million after that. There were, or billion. I have to go back, look, 150 million. But there was a lot of things. But bird dog, I can tell you right now, bird dog was used as a pawn. They picked some probably douchebag in the military. I'll have to use that terminology for people, but what we call them a different term in the military. He probably had something on his record. All right. They used the guy as a pawn. All right. And call him the fall guy. We're going to use this guy as a fall guy, and then get all the people on media, both sides, CNN and Fox, get them all stirred up, get them focused on that and what was Obama and all them doing in the background. So that's where people need to realize, why God chose me as well. I served under the Obama years, all right, and I know a few things that I haven't revealed yet because it's not about me, but there's a few things when the timing's right, when God's timing's right, it'll all make sense why God chose me where I'm at. All right. But Iran, President Trump, it was very important for him not to start a war. He hasn't started a foreign war. Anybody who thinks Yemen and this Israeli and Iran, no, when there's an executive order in place, it's been there for years. Yemen was put in there by Obama. We were bombing Yemen a couple months ago. Ladies and gentlemen, we have every right to do so. President Trump was given this plate by the military. He was chosen to do this. All right. So every executive order we have open, he's the only one who's terminated some national emergencies. All these things are open. So in order to close them, depends on what the deal was made. He said that Iran did not take my deal. So that tells you that he didn't take it way back here. It's not right now. So
he was talking about that in his first term, right before the end of his first term. Iran and China better take the deal, and they didn't. Right before he left.
That's correct. That's correct. And so this is, and I went back, found all the articles. That's the funniest thing. You have to go back and dig through all your stuff you posted way back and find it again. And so I've been finding all that because right now, I mean, there's a lot of people. Rhinos, they're looking like rhinos and looking like never Trumpers. All right, there's a lot of big platforms that are losing credibility right now. If they only knew laws and orders by the man they claim to support, they would know what's going on right now because there is a unique set of laws and orders that outline a military occupation, military government, continuity government, government in exile, special operations. There's a unique set of laws, and those are invoked right now. It's not a normal, it's not a real time. And no, we should never want this to happen again because we don't want our militaries on our streets. We shouldn't want that. But President Trump tells everybody our gravest threats are not abroad, they're within. If you go back to Abraham Lincoln, A lot of veterans don't know this. Foreign and domestic was put in our oath of enlistment by Abraham Lincoln. It did not mean foreign like Iraq, Iran,
Sorry.
and all these places. It meant foreign, anybody who was against our ideologies, our foundation,
Right.
our Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, our literature that set up this greatest nation the world's ever seen. If you were against that, you were foreign. If you were trying to take that away, you were foreign. Liberals, the liberals on the streets right now, they're acting as foreign agents. All right. So that's why rhinos and never Trumpers who are showing their true colors now, you look the same way. You look foreign. All right. When you don't know what's going on lawfully, especially by the man you claim to support, you're foreign or you're acting like it. So you're going to be treated like it. This is a time of war. It's not the conventional war. That's why they use unconventional warfare tactics and strategies. But still, when you look that way, you're going to be treated that way. That's why they said anybody that's down on the border on that property that they deem military, it don't matter who you are, you're going to be treated the same way. You could be a Republican, conservative, sticking your little gooseneck over there trying to see what's going on. They going to snatch you up. It don't matter. You don't even have to look like a liberal, act like a crazy. So if people would know what they're supposed to know, remove your emotions. I was talking to a friend of mine today about that right before we came on here. I was on the phone and we were talking about discernment. We're in an age of discernment. All right. Logic and reasoning does not equal getting your emotions in a fanny. I'm on with Major Jim O'Connor all the time, who is now a bishop, but he was a major, West Point graduate, special operations. And he says the same thing. If you're a Christian, and you and I were talking about faith versus belief, the Bible says, I did not give you the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. Well, what do you want to fill your sound mind with? You want to fill it with feel-good terms and opinions and emotions, or you want to fill it with what President Trump's working with, which are laws and orders? The only way he could be operating are laws and orders. If he didn't, then he would be a dictator, authoritative. And because the actions right now, if he didn't have the laws and orders, that's exactly what it would be to the other side. But because the laws and orders are invoked right now that outline a military government, military occupation, continuity government, special operations, unconventional warfare, clandestine operations, covert operations, guerrilla warfare, he's taken out the swamp. You're watching the swamp being drained, ladies and gentlemen, the whole swamp. So you can't wrap your feelings and emotions into an influencer or a TV personality over your commander in chief, right?
Even Adam Schiff the other day, and I wish I had the clip. Adam Schiff is talking to one of the liberal media, and he gives a very strange, and it's a real, off the cuff statement of, well, I don't even have the intel on Israel and Iran, and I'm like, dude, he's on the intel community, committees, and I'm like, he doesn't have the information anymore. He has been deleted, just like Obama has been deleted from their capability of knowing what's going on, and that's partly what's happening here.
And then Mike Johnson, in the same time period that shifted this, Mike Johnson was asked about his roles. He said, well, I'm a wartime speaker and I don't have a regular schedule. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're over 40 years old, you have watched the Speaker of the House your whole life have a regular schedule. They have a set task they do. He told at this point, it ain't about me. It ain't. But because my books do have helped so many people, find the peace, find the solace, find the calmness, but also through real facts, not diluted, good, feel good terms and happy this and not all that. What President Trump's working with, I've been validated more times to Pluto and back, or whatever. If you don't believe in space, or whatever, and whatever you want to apply there. I've been to China and back, or wherever, but it's all there.
Right. So, do you have a feeling like when, this stuff might kind of, do you have a feeling about when it might be over, or do you feel like it's, still going to go on for a lot longer, or what do you feel like on that?
Well, I'm not the command room, and I think what people always do is they get to thinking, oh, well, how can you be in the know, or how can you be in operations yourself if you don't know that? And I'm like, because that's how operations work. It's in layers and tiers. But one, you got to know what's going on. That's like I tell people, you got to know what a continuity government is. Then you got to know what a military occupation is and how they coincide. Eisenhower established your presidential emergency action documents and the continuity government. They coincide. All right. PEDs are a part of a cog. Well, you have full proof that President Trump put us in a continuity government with Executive Order 13961.
Right.
Why would, quote unquote, Joe, why would he wait till the last full 24-hour day of a presidency to partially revoke a cog? They yell, oh, he's a threat to democracy. Oh, he's a dictator. He's all these things. Well, why didn't they abolish every single thing by President Trump on day one if Joe Biden was real? Why didn't they abolish everything? If this guy, here's how you got to do it. I hate hypotheticals, but for the people out there that are trying to grasp this, you got to go into a hypothetical and go, okay, this is real time. Every 4 years, you think President Trump was in 4 years, then you think he had to sit out because of election fraud and all this stuff. And then you thought you saw, quote unquote, Joe. All right. If that's the case, then if you're Joe Biden, Obama, the Democrats, all of them, Elizabeth Warren, all these cronies, you would go, okay, we need to make sure that if we do lose 2024, we need to make sure this guy, everything he did to fundamentally reset America, we need to go in and abolish everything we can abolish via executive orders, which would require just a termination or revoking.
Simple.
Simple, real stuff. That's what they do. That's what laws do.
You and I were talking. I remember in like late August, early September of 22, and you and I were really, really focused on that executive order. It was just 13848, and it's about the election fraud. And, there's an interesting paragraph or sentence at the very end of that initial set statement that says that we are now in a national emergency. And that was back in 2018 when he writes that, and, related to election issues. And you and I were kind of interested. They kind of got right up to the edge of that one. We didn't know if it might tip over into, okay, they're taking over. But Biden re-signed that one. See, that would have been one I've been going, you know what? You should not have re-signed that one because
right. If there was election fraud. Well, if you're being accused of election fraud, you're being accused by the person who signed this executive order, right? So right. You also have to paint that picture. If you're someone saying Trump was right about everything, but you'll turn around and believe that the very man who signed and declared the national emergency would do something against his own signature and be cheating as well, like that'd be the stupidest thing, President Trump. Like that's hard to even make it, right? So it's like, why didn't they abolish everything on day one? Instead,
I would have.
They let a continuity government run all the way to the last full day. So a partial now, they partially revoked the last thing on quote unquote Joe's record on the Federal Register. That last executive order is a partial revocation of the continuity government. So we're still in continuity government. See, so it shows its priority. He was not real. The auto pen was not a bunch of Democrats behind the scene. The auto pen is soft disclosure, getting people ready. This is setting the stage, because President Trump will be exonerated. In order to exonerate President Trump, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know what exonerate means, it means to clear that there's nothing on your record whatsoever. Acquitted means you might have something, you might have done it, but they didn't have full evidence. Exoneration means nothing. Well, we don't need him exonerated. I don't need him exonerated. Guess who does? The people holding up severed heads and want him assassinated. These liberals out there calling for the assassination or wouldn't mind it happening. Those people need him exonerated. President Trump ain't riding off into the sunset with half this nation going, oh, I love President Trump, and the other half going, kill him, kill him. No, he's going to be exonerated. And to exonerate him, that means that people are going to be brought to their knees with some major something. I don't know what they're planning on doing, but it's going to be something that makes everybody go, what the heck did I just witness? So, and bring everybody to a humble, you know, and I have a good feeling what that may be, because I, you know, just knowing what the chess game they've been playing. I mean, that's why it does require skills and or being a veteran to know the language, the verbiage, but also the tactics that have already been used, and what will they use to bring that to a close. And so the continuity of government being partially revoked means it's going to be fully revoked. So people need to know that that's the priority. Stop focusing on all the other stuff, even though I know the auto pen was not really Joe and it wasn't even Democrats. It's part of the operation. But stop even focusing on that and go, look, how does President Trump know everything always a year or two or even months ahead? Right. And so you got to know, you got to always, that's your faith. That's your foundation, though. And if you got to believe in that and stop focusing on the time period because of this. I'm 42 again. If I live to be 92, then I'm going to live through this. All right. It ain't going to last that long, ladies and gentlemen.
Sure.
The point I'm trying to make is that if whatever age you are, all right, whatever age you are, they didn't do all this again just to be the same old rigmarole. This is a fundamental reset, not a fundamental change. It's a fundamental reset as prescribed in our Declaration of Independence. The Constitution don't mean anything. It don't mean a thing to us unless we have a foundation, as our founders talked about in the Declaration. Abraham Lincoln also made this a preference. He made this a point and a preference. He said, look, Constitution is a framework for Congress. It don't mean a thing if we don't have our fundamental rights and our fundamental everything that was given. And our founders did that on purpose. And people forget that. Our founders started a war without anything on paper. They went out there and just started kicking rear ends and going, wait, what are we fighting for? We don't even have a piece of paper. They signed the Declaration of Independence 7 years before the war.
Before the war. I mean, barely the war started, right? The Boston Tea Parties in barely in 1775. It isn't even like a half a year into it, and they drop this thing, and it doesn't end until the 80s. You're going, what?
They declare independence 7 years. That is like a football team when they're in the coin toss, looking over at the opponent saying, we're about to whoop your butt, you know, and we're going to kick your whatever. And we're going to do it like this
49-10. This is how we're going to do. We're going to throw 3 touchdown passes and you're toast. And it's like, well, wait a second.
And they're like, whoa, well, we're prepared for you. And then they're not, right? Oh. So it'd be like it'd be like them getting on TV. It's like Joe Namath when this was before football would put, whether you think it's rigged or not, but for sure back then when Joe Namath guaranteed that they were going to win the Super Bowl, that was big terminology back then. That was big. And he did it on TV. He said, I guarantee you we're going to win the Super Bowl. That'd be like every team right now getting on TV and saying, we're going to win this game and this game and this game, and then doing it, right? And then at the end, hoisting the trophy and saying, we told you we were going to whoop all your butts. I mean, if you don't get chill bumps over that, and I ain't comparing war whatsoever to football. So when you think of a bunch of men going out there and saying, all right, now we got something to fight for. We got this bad boy right here, a declaration, and we're going to kick all their butts. And I mean, so, you know, it's crazy when people apply that.
It's a faith point. I'm going to show you a video. This just dropped out today. This is in Iran, and it's kind of weird. It's right outside of a bank, and the money isn't coming for people. I'm going to mute it here, but basically they're running around in front of the banks. They're desperately trying to withdraw their money. Think about this for half a second, okay? Iran is in the middle of a war. They're getting bombed to smithereens. Most of their leadership is down and out. And why do you close the banks? And I keep saying, and this is why I think, you know, Derek and I have a lot of coalition together with us too. I keep talking about the financial systems. I keep saying listen, we are on the edge. I mean, the death systems, the all this other stuff are on the edge. And in Iran, people can't get to their banking kind of structures. Why their banking structures when you're in the middle of war? Why would that even matter? It's because we're taking out the cabal and we're going, you're not even going to have a dollar to your name. That doesn't mean the people, but it's a kind of a calm point out there, I would say.
Well, I know one other point I was going to try to make. I forgot. So when I was
Sorry.
talking about age, well, no, I'm going to allude to that too. But when I was talking about age a while ago, all right, if you're 40, 50, whatever you are, all right, what you can't do is, this is why, welcome to the military, hurry up and wait. That's what we tell people right now.
Yeah, right.
Hurry up
right.
and wait. But look, if it takes 12 years, if it does take all the way to 2029, let's just say it did, all right, then 12 years of your life, though, to clean out the cabal, to clean out the monetary system in every nation on the planet and reset that, what we're talking about here, all right, to clean out trafficking, all forms of trafficking, to go in there and annihilate every tunnel system, which is, we're doing that. I can assure you that right now. That's what's happening. All right, you got to watch people like Jaco and Michael Jaco, former Navy SEAL and CIA. All right, people who know what's going, like all these floods and all these fires, ladies and gentlemen. That's another way of smoking out tunnels. All right, and there's multiple tunnel systems in the U.S. There's over 8,000 plus in North Korea. So apply a country like North Korea, and then know that they're in Iran, they're in Israel, tunnels. Now, ladies and gentlemen, so President Trump is the first president to implement subterranean warfare in a tactic, in a publication. All right, so it tells you Iran, the Defense Intelligence put out a publication 2019 about Iran. All right, 2019, Israel, Army publications telling you what we're spending. And underground wars are coming. All right, so President Trump declared Jerusalem capital. All right, so all these things are pre-planned. Money, I tell people all the time, all right, this is it. People want to make it, it's kind of like anything else in life. People try to complicate things. It ain't complicated. All right, war. All throughout history, wars are always started because of what? Power and resources. It's all about power and resources. Well, how do you have more power and have more resources? Money. In the Bible, it's very specific on this. The lust of money is different than money. And so that's why this stuff has always got a hairline difference everywhere. The lust of money is different than money. All right, we need a barter. We've always had a barter system because that's why people have traded things throughout history. All right, but it's the lust of that barter. It's the lust of that. And look at what America, that's why I tell people all the time, if you're whining, complaining, fussing, cussing, guess where you are? Every American who has something outside of your food, water, shelter, if you have a boat, if you have an ATV, if you have a hunting lease, if you go to the bar on Fridays and drink a beer, whatever that, if you have anything outside of food, water, and regular shelter, you don't need to be complaining right now. Not a single person. All right, you're not in a nation that's going to hell and the economy is going to hell and all that, because it's a man-made monetary system. All right. So the three basic components of living is food, water, shelter. Even a coffee. Bonus, I don't need coffee. I want coffee, but I need water. Our bodies do require water, H2O, all right, to survive. All right, and you can go up to 3 to 4 weeks, depending on also who you are. You go 3 to 4 weeks without food, but if you have water, you can make it. You might not want to, but you can. So it's making a point out there that what you're watching right now, you shouldn't be complaining at all, because President Trump, what they've done in 12 years' time, and it ain't even been 12 years, but if you want to look at the escalator ride down, that's 10 years ago, just a couple of days ago. All right, what they've done in 10 years is fundamentally reset, not change, fundamentally reset our nation. And all this clean out, the opioids, I mean, everything that we are combating, it is so biblical, monumental, historical. You just can't put it in terms. So the monetary system, when they were showing, like I showed this, I have to go find it again. but I'll post it for everybody who's watching here that follows me as well. I was showing people who was it? It was OFAC or one of those websites. We're showing that it said specifically, it said if you receive an email or context like this, report it to here. So it said a global reset on currency. Now, they didn't say this is what's happening right now, but they put it in the context of if you receive an email, if you receive some kind of contact that resembles this, then contact us. All right. So they were telling you without telling you that there's a global reset coming. All right. And what are people doing right now? People are falling for scammers with Bitcoin and crypto. Scammers. It's real, but there's also scammers. So people are falling for people who even fake me and fake you, emailing people, hey, message me on Signal. And that's not us, right? It's not me.
It never has. But here's the interesting thing. When did that really start to occur? I went back and studied it. It started to occur in 2023. That's when most of the money has basically dried up worldwide. I mean, and you go, wait a second. And I have literally had conversations with the FBI because they won't even talk to me. And I'm going, under my name, there are 6 figures levels of stealing. And if I listed off a dozen truthers, influencers that, I said, you guys would call them influencers. I could have millions of dollars, 7, 8 figure kind of things of scams stealing about money. Why isn't anyone in mainstream media to government to, panels going on about the massive, crypto scams, the QFS scamming kind of things, right? And and here's the thing, it's because the cabal bad guys are running out of money left and right. And it started really in 2023 is because they've already been cut off a long time ago with that.
Well, and that's the other thing you want to happen. And I know people don't like it, but that's okay. You're going to have to like it. Is that sometimes the best way to go after your enemy is to set a trap on them and let them demise their own selves. Right. And it's be like no different. Like if you and I were best friends and you did something to me, and I went and told your wife, well, you'd be like, man, what kind of friend are you? But it could have been good and it could have been bad. But sometimes it's better to let someone else tell on themselves than it is to go tattle on them. All right. There's some cases, sure, someone's saying they're going to commit suicide, they're going to do something crazy, then you stop stuff like that. But, some people just won't understand that from the standpoint of, would you rather save 10 million and lose 10,000? Or would you rather save 10,000 and lose 10 million?
Really?
So see, when a military occupation sets a parameter, it don't mean that everything in it is hunky-dory. It also don't mean anything in it isn't happening either. But It's a military, it's a parameter, meaning that, look, we're setting this parameter. Nothing's going to get past here. But the people also have to come back to awareness of responsibility and accountability. And where do you play into it? Wherever you are, whoever you are out there, whether it's just your family, your friend base, your community, your town hall, your city hall, whatever it is, your county, your state, and maybe you are federal. But everybody has a responsibility. The way we maintain and sustain that is everybody to know what they're supposed to know, the key core principles of America, the 3 branches of government, how they function and operate, how legislation works, etc. Right? Everybody has a part in that. And so many people did what? Put too much trust in the politicians. Oh, well, that's their job. That's what they do. No, that's our job. They represent us. Well, they call them House representatives. They represent us. All right. So little things like that, and the senators and their roles. But so many people don't even know that and don't apply that. And that's how we got to where we are. And that's why it had to look like this. Now, some things are being taken care of that won't require you and I. All right. But some things are. So it's just little things like that. If people would set that and know what's going on, there's a clear blueprint. And President Trump, he has to do certain things. A lot of his stuff are proclamations. All right. Little things like this tip of the spear, special operations. That's a proclamation in another manner because it's timestamped. The photo's timestamped and it'll be timestamped in history. And they'll say, well, that's tip of the spear. That's not Space Force. That's tip of the spear. That's special operations. All right. And everything outlines that. So even just like the monetary system, gold-backed digital currency, he told everybody it's not the same as a central bank. Gold-backed, separate. I mean, there's so many things that they have clearly put into place, but they've also made sure it didn't get confused with all the other of the swamp and the cabal and the deep state and the global alliance that they had. All right, they've made a clear separation. And where we're going, again, you know, like I just don't get if you do have faith or even a belief, whatever you want to use the terminology, whatever it is, ladies and gentlemen, how can you just say that you're a President Trump supporter? Trump's right about everything, and then the next day the world's falling on you, right? It just I don't get that mentality, because there's so much stuff. If you are following what you're supposed to know and your foundations on what President Trump's working with, which are unique laws and orders, there's so much stuff that's happened. And so the Iran-Israel thing, it's a delay. It's already been done. All this stuff's already been done.
Right.
And what we were talking about financially, you'll be able to chime in on this again, because this is really important for people. The war order that was put into place, that I always talk about for people who follow me, it sounds like a broken record, but it's a good broken record. You only need to know one thing, because it's only in one spot. Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550 is the war order. Guess who introduced that? Democratic House. A Democratic controlled House introduced a war order under President Trump, and it's in the War Powers Act. That's your war order. Every executive order that's operating all our military right now, especially on our turf, is under that clause declared by President Donald John Trump. Why didn't Joe and all them abolish that again? So then you move forward to your 2020. We were talking about the monetary system one time and the importance of August 2020. All right. August 2020, there was a report put out by Congress. All right. As prescribed in that 1550 clause, the president's report to Congress to use the military to the defense committees, regular and irregular special operations, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Clandestine, covert, guerrilla, all that. That's what irregular means. Irregular warfare. All right. August 28, 2020, Congress puts out a report, and it's titled the Military Justice Act of 2016. All right. Well, the Military Justice Act was where it ain't supposed to sound like this, but we do this because it separates, but it was the cabal. All right. It was the deep state. Out of nowhere, Obama's Supreme Court goes in May 2016 and clarifies that military courts and laws are separate from federal courts and laws. So they're separating the jurisprudence of military and federal by the Supreme Court, Obama's Supreme Court, while Obama was still in. All right. And this report is titled that, but it's under President Donald John Trump. August 28, 2020 is exactly 180 business days, not regular days, but business days, from December the 20th, 2019 to August 28, 2020. December 20th, 2019 is when Section 1550 was put there by the Congress, not President Trump. Congress does that. That's exactly 180 business days. Now watch what you just said about 2023 when everything dried up. All right. So right now, and I won't name names, I almost did, but there's a bunch of these people out there that were rhinos. They're showing their colors now. They're rhinos and never Trumpers. They were like, oh, we're all Trump supporters. No, you prey on people, P-R-E-Y, ladies and gentlemen, prey on people's emotions using good feeling terms and happy terms, using Trump this and Trump that, and I'm a Trump that. Now they're showing their colors. All right. And there's certain people out there that are not our war, it is our war. All right. It is ours. Iran, 1979, Executive Order 12170, Jimmy Carter. It is our war. All right. That whatever they promised these bureaucrats for 37 years, because I draw the line in 2016, but right there when President Trump won. So really you could say 38 years, because 2017 when President Trump visually went in. So all these years we let Iran stockpile all these weapons. We let them stockpile these nuclear facilities. That's what is being bombed right now. Right. All articles show nuclear facilities. That's underground, ladies and gentlemen. They told you it's underground. Underground, guess what that is? Subterranean warfare. Who was the first president to implement subterranean warfare tactics in military publications? President Donald John Trump. It is our war. It's already been pre-planned. And then what you were talking about, I think you probably know what I'm talking about with the August 2020 and the monetary. All right. And we talk about the quantum system, all the other things. But then 2023. So I caught multiple aircraft. God just always had me on the flight out. I don't watch it all day, every day, but I was just having to catch all these aircraft. So Turkmenistan, all right, they were in Arkansas at a regular airport not far from Tulsa, Oklahoma. All right, at a regular airport, no military components attached, no National Guard, no reserve components. Turkmenistan, all right, their government, the Turk government, was in Podunk, Arkansas. No offense, Arkansas. I love Arkansas. Right? I love it up there. But it was near Fayetteville. It was near Springdale in that region, but just west of there. All right. Little airport, little regional airport. Turkmenistan government. Then they were in Canada. I would say that was 2023. Then they were in Canada in 2024. Then they were in Russia, all right, in 2024. Then I called it Iranian. It looks like a tiny little symbol, and they use this. It could be a drone. It could be something else. But it was coming out of Dubai, United Arab Emiratis, which is the Abraham Accords, who signed the agreement with Israel. This was just in May, just not long ago. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not how military operates. If Iran was truly our enemy, they would be coming out of the UAE with an aircraft on public radar for you to see. If you were on the radar, you could have seen it. All right. It's not like I have some kind of secret code. I don't with that. All right. So little things like that. Turkmenistan. Well, guess what they did? They left our National Guard program in 2011, but they rejoined it in 2021, I believe it was. All right. So they're partnered with the Montana National Guard, the state of Montana National Guard.
That's interesting.
And here they are in Arkansas, Canada. All right. Moscow. Well, it was Moscow time. They were in Russia, somewhere in Russia. I don't know where it flew to. Probably Moscow, though, because that's where most aircraft fly to. And then coming out of Dubai, UAE, just recently. All right. So you're showing from 2023, 2024, 2025. All right. Turkmenistan. It proves right there military occupation, military operation, and the continuity of government with our government. All right. So all those things, they wouldn't be flying just willy-nilly wherever they wanted to go. Because anytime you would fly into an international territory, that country could, if they didn't have,
they down them in a second, right?
Oh, heck yeah! Like, because if you're deemed as a threat, or they think you're being a threat, that's not how aircraft work in the military at all. Even our own military,
you couldn't fly in with a little tiny Cessna that they were worried about. They'll take that thing down.
No, they will bomb the heck out of it. Like it, especially if you don't know how to talk on air traffic control. When they're saying identify yourself, if you don't identify yourself, no. So our own military has to request access into the District of Columbia. People don't even know that. So if our own military has to request access into the District of Columbia, that radius, people never seen that square that's on the map, come on, people. So I say it like that, meaning like, I wish people could see that look, not all veterans know what's going on right now. They don't. No. Military does not teach laws and orders. Military expects you to be an adult when you come in, first off. All right, not talk crying and whining and bickering about, I want to have a sex change and all this other stuff. No, the military expects you to come in. You adapt to the military. It don't adapt to you. You're supposed to be an adult when you go in, and if you don't, it'll make you one quick. All right, so that's what the whole point of basic training is, by the way. The yelling, screaming, cussing, I've heard people say, I couldn't handle that. They do that to create chaos, where if you can work in chaos, you can work in anything. Right. It keeps you a level mind. So military don't teach laws and orders, though. So not all veterans know what's going on. But here's the thing about a veteran. When they're presented with military law and military orders and go, okay, all of us veterans, everybody, past, deceased, present, right now, and your current soldiers, Title 32 for National Guard, but Title 10 for reserve components and active duty. All right, so it's the same presidential authority. Now, Title 32 is to separate the National Guard, but they're still under presidential call-up. They can go under presidential call-up, which is Title 10. So Title 10 is your main, that's your Uniform Code of Military Justice. That is your military law. All right. So it's not an insult the way liberals call an insult, and it's not, oh, it's offensive the way they use it, but
Right.
it is a slap in the face to all veterans who do know our laws and orders, who do know what's going on militarily speaking, for anybody to keep questioning President Donald John Trump when there's a clear blueprint that he's using, which is military first, paired with federal. And that's why I wish people would find that solace and peace and comfort and go, okay, why is this time period so different than any other time period of the swamp? Yeah, you saw drama in years past. This ain't drama, though. This is fundamental reset, and the deep state have been exposed, and they don't like it. So naturally, they're going to say things. They're going to retaliate. They're going to pop off at the mouth. That they're popping off for a reason. Because President Donald John Trump has cleaned and drained the swamp, and like the monetary thing in Iran. All this is showing, it's already been done, but what it's showing is all these people want to get their sovereignty back. And then, two, it's also showing there has been a fundamental change. There has been a fundamental change in those nations because they needed a change. We needed a fundamental reset. They needed a fundamental change.
Right. Well, I was thinking about my wife watched the whole military parade in DC. She pulled up Right Side Broadcasting, I think it was, and she was watching the whole thing, and I was watching in the background kind of thing. But it was kind of fascinating. It was kind of I was kind of ruminating a little bit more and more on it because I'd never really seen a parade in this kind of way. I'm sure other people have, so it's maybe my own ignorance with that too. But we were kind of jawing about it and kind of going, does military parades don't normally happen like that unless you've won the war? I mean, it's kind of the thing you drop your military. And I just wondered what you thought of that idea. Is that, just a fascinating, I think there's a lot of comms going on in that military parade going on. Was it June 12th or whatever it was? What do you feel about that? 14th. Okay.
Well, it could be. God's timing is never our timing. And all this has been on a biblical, whatever you want to call it, axis, because, again, what they've done, every date that was a cabal date, they've put something great on that cabal date, especially major, like December the 7th, Pearl Harbor. He signed the executive order for continuity of government on that day. So it's exposing a lot of things in past with some of these dates.
Mm-hmm.
And because like the special operations colonels that I'm on with, like Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bosi and Colonel Sellers and all those special operations, ladies and gentlemen, Delta Force, former deputy commander. I mean, we're talking about special operations for years. We did a June 6th special. I think it was 2 years ago now. Maybe, it's been 2 years. But they alluded, they went into deep with Churchill and Roosevelt even being in the know of certain things. All right, that wouldn't paint a good picture in another way.
No, right.
And so, so if you can really go a little deep. What President Trump and them are doing is kind of alluded to a lot of things. President Trump, not long ago, he said, why didn't we take the oil? He was talking about with Bush, both Bushes. Why didn't we take the oil? We would be the United States of America. You talking about chill bumps there. He's giving you a little soft disclosure of what the revelation is going to come to show people that we didn't take the oil. They took the oil. Who are they? Bush's deep state cabal. They took the oil. All right. So he's taking shots, but he also knows too, multiple men and women have served in the military throughout history and answered the call during that time period, believing what all we can know. Right.
Correct.
So you got to be delicate with that because we do have veteran suicide. We do have to be delicate with people there with certain aspects of the truth because in reality, me and other veterans, especially special operation veterans, we all know that, every war from Korea, especially to Afghanistan, was all man-made. They were not a threat to us, not the way that it's perceived. Now, people that don't know 9/11 was rigged and all that's already ready. President Trump has a Supreme Court docket right now waiting to go. 23-939 is public. You can go look at it on supremecourt.gov. Type in 23-939. It's going to have a lot of petitions inside of it, but scroll down to March the 19th and find the one that says 3 amici curiae, or it says 3 military. It'll say the number 3. Click on that one, and you can read about it.
And
all right, it's waiting to go.
One more time. Is it 23 what?
-939.
939. Okay.
And it's going to open a massive can of worms, because the question posed in there, the question is, can a president order SEAL Team 6 to commit murder on a political rival? Well, the last time SEAL Team 6 was involved with anything with a president and a political anything, or a rival, or a leader, was Osama bin Laden. All right, that was 2011. Also, guess who else died in 2011 that was controversial? Gaddafi. All right, well, that's Libya, Benghazi. Who is that? Oh, Hillary Clinton. So that's going to open a massive case. 3 amici curiae say an astounding no. So you have to have friends of the court. That's what amici curiae means to the people that don't know. It's Latin for friends of the court. All right, that way a judge can go, okay, yep, these generals are not a judge, but they one of them, well, one's a colonel, but the others are general. Saying, okay, they're not a judge, but I'll listen to them because of their experience in. And then it says also in the argument, it says specifically that multiple leaders and executive leaders, et cetera, say an astounding no. All right. So it has to be a constitutional, there has to be a declaration of a war. So that's why I'm trying to tell people that Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550 is your declaration of what's going on right now. So when President Trump, when they say assassinated Salome, or I can't ever pronounce his last name, but that
I never get it right either.
That was not an assassination. All right, not by the terminology assassination. There's a declaration of a war back here. All right, that's very, very, very key. So that's going to open a massive case. So when you look at the dates of which things have happened, and the delicacy also what they have to do with all the veterans of these time periods, that parade, you can take a lot of things from it. One, June the 14th is our birthday, the Army's birthday. June 14th, 1775. The oath was established that day. 16 days later, the very first military law. Military law came before anything in this nation. All right, so that parade, there's a lot of things maybe you could take from it, but one, it was our birthday, 250 years. When we get to next year and the 250 years of our nation, no other republic has ever made it that long. All right. So there's a lot of that. Also honoring our past wars. All right. Whether they were good or bad. Again, men and women served during that time period, believing in.
I mean, you don't want to, I mean, because they were very delicate on that, because I know a lot of researching patriots are, mad about an X war, pick the one, that you want to come up with, and because they all have.
Well, what's amazing about it is like, look, what's great about this? The end goal is peace and harmony, and breaking up all this bullcrap, Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative. We were never supposed to look like this. Government wasn't supposed to look like that. State government, local, none of it was supposed to be malicious, vicious. Just oh God, you believe in this? How dare you? Like like gay people, they ain't no rights been taken away from nobody. Everybody who's gay is still gay. Right. Ain't no rights. You're just not going to be funded. You're not going to be funded federally or state-wise. If you want to go chop your thing off. If you want to go chop your thing off, then sorry, ladies. But if you want to go chop it off, hey, did you pay for it? If I want my hair colored, I got to pay for it. Scott, you go pay. Dr. Scott, sorry, but I'll call you doctor. But you
call me anything you want.
When this gray keeps popping out, are you going to color it brown for me? I'll be like, hey. You're like, no. You're like, no. You want your hair colored? You pay for it, right? All right. So little things like that. I mean, none of this stuff was ever supposed to look like this, and you have to kind of get humorful in another way. So it was not supposed to look like that. And so the end goal is harmony and peace. So what we're doing right now is, like President Trump said, we're going to win so much. You're going to get tired of winning. Well, when you win, and when people realize no taxes on tips is actually income tax, no such thing as a tip tax. All right. When people realize all that, when the money starts flowing in even more so, see, here's what they couldn't do, ladies and gentlemen. We're not getting to a place where we're not going to have a government. We're just getting back to a smaller federal and more state power and more people power, as President Trump said, giving the power back to the people. But if they went in, like he keeps knocking old Powell, if they went in and just slashed the numbers like that, then what would happen? People go, oh, you can go in and there's just change the number like that. Then people would always want that to happen. They wouldn't want a system in place, right? And to teach people how to trade, how to barter, how to do business. Like no one would ever, they'd always want the president just going there. Oh, you can do that number, flip it like that. We would never sustain that way.
The whole point that I keep bringing up too with people when they talk about this and they like, well, it should be fair to me. And I'm going, you know what? We need to have a fundamental system where the people create wealth themselves. And when you start doing that, you start seeing when you have to create the wealth yourself, what you find, and someone's not stealing it from you. And I will bring the perfect, sets of verses is James 5:2-5. Basically don't pull back, the cattle. It's talking about cattle, plowing the field. You don't put reins on them. When you don't mess with the people and let them, keep what they earn, in essence, what you find is that they create immense amount of wealth, and that wealth starts coming around to all the people. And it's not because the government gives it to, the government just steps out of the way. And unless you, go out of bounds and do something, crazy that's against the other people, that's the whole point with that too. So
when you win, when you win, and everybody starts seeing that, and so it ostracizes all the ones out there thinking President Trump is destroying this or doing that. Then all of a sudden, are they going to keep the people whining and complaining? Are they going to whine and complain because they got more money flowing in and they see all this money flowing? They see no taxes and no this and no tax on this and no tax on that. No, if they do, they are showing their pure ignorance there. So when you win, you have a parade like that. Look at all the people who are in arms on that, thinking that parade, the army was doing that for President Trump's birthday. So that also shows you now. I'm still with Dan Scavino and everything. Don't let the 10% make you think they're bigger than what they are. They're not. But that 10% will outwork the lazy, quote unquote, patriot, average patriot. So that's what they got to do is get you every patriot out. If you think you're a patriot or if you are a patriot, you got to always remember, we can't lay down and expect America just to sustain without a fight always. But when we get control of every system, which we're doing and we have done, that's what's happening. We get back in control of every system again. Accountability, responsibility, transparency, communications. All right. When we get that back under control and that's what's happening, then we can keep it under a level where it never festers. We can keep it down here. And if someone has a hiccup and say, all right, that ain't how this works. All right. And if they get a strike on their resume, if we will, we'll call it that, then say, okay, you have a strike. All right. Next time, this is what's going to happen. You may be in a fireable position. You may be in an electrical position. It depends on what it is. All right. But that's why President Trump set the standard on firing people, even with people that were people he knew. And it's like, look, if you ain't getting it done, there's the road. There's the highway. I'll find someone who will do it. Yep. Right. So they're resetting this whole standard of saying, look, the way we maintain and sustain this. So I think it's perfect what they're doing. They're showing happy with the people who I sound like the guy on the one who just passed away from Duck Commander, Phil Robertson, but Phil. Happy. That was his saying. But they're getting people to where look, don't forget that President Trump landslide and popular vote. So all these people out there that are jumping ship, you look atrocious because you don't know what he's working with lawfully. But military. So if you support the military, you can't support the military without military law. So you don't want to look atrocious. But the liberals, the 10 percentile, all right, look how they treated this parade. Like we're talking about the republic, but see, they call us a democracy. We're not a democracy, ladies and gentlemen. No, and I want to make that point. Nowhere in our Declaration of Independence, nowhere in the Constitution, nowhere in the Bill of Rights. Guess where the only once, democracy is mentioned in our literature, founding literature, was Federalist Paper number 10. Guess who wrote it? James Madison, the father of the Constitution. And he wrote the term democracy in there, and he said, pure democracies are dangerous. Woo! See, so
well,
it tells you right
it's
there.
funny. In 2020, I did a video. It's one of my least seen videos. I mean, I can't say exact number, but it was my least known videos. And because I'd started talking to several social studies teachers, and I'm like, do you guys understand the difference between a democracy and a constitutional republic? And they're looking at me like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, you got to understand democracy is mob rule. If 67% of the
very core principle,
right?
No.
If 67% of the people said you have to cut off your all your fingers in your left hand, then that would be the law until it's physically changed. Enough people would go in and vote that change in. That's what democracy does. Whereas a constitutional republic has democracy to bring in the people, but they're accountable to a constitution. And we have lost the mentality of that. And it comes because of two levels: education, because the cabal has been taking over those kind of areas, and media, who've been telling you democracy, democracy, democracy. So anyone who talks about democracy on the mainstream media, you need to turn them off 5 seconds later, because they're all lying to you with that too. And those are the things I would just, keep saying to people is, what are you looking at? Is it making sense to you in the level of what the Constitution was talking about in the beginning time frame? And I think that's, the comms I saw coming out there were just over and again, there is a conversation between the military and its CIC. So I thought it was powerful with that too. With that, let me throw. Go ahead.
Well, just one more thing I was going to say is that the liberals were, what was her name? That Fawcett and Russell's son was out there standing in front of the National Guard, and don't you obey an unconstitutional order, and you don't want to be to the National Guard. I'm like, look, these people are so ignorant, right? When you go in the military, if you're a low ranking, you're taking orders. That's not where orders are defined, ladies and gentlemen. I'll go ahead and tell you right now, not on the bid scale. Because again, when you're low ranking, when you go in, you're taught that, all right, here's your chain of command. This is how it works. If you skip chain of command, you better have a dang good reason why you skipped it, or you're going to get chewed out for skipping your just for something simple. Just for something simple, right? You skip your chain of command. All right, because that's what the military works on. And they do that for other reasons, not the simplicities, but if you get in a dire situation, that's why that matters. All right, so these people out there that act like the military are taking unconstitutional orders, where you deem it unconstitutional is Congress, for one. Two, it's also your generals, and then it comes down to like right around a major, really. And even some captains could, if they have a strong chain of command above them, to make a case going. But see, when orders come down, it goes what? General, colonel, lieutenant colonel, major, right? So it's already coming through that chain of command to get there. So if a captain goes, this is unconstitutional, or I'm not doing this, this order's going to get my men killed, whatever, they're gonna have to go to that where it already came from and go, and they're
not going to walk in. Like my favorite one recently was where Maxine Waters is in LA and she tries to walk up into, now it's, I don't know what building it was, or probably ICE, and the guy just shut the door on her. And I think that was a perfect calm of like, Shut up.
Oh yeah,
You don't
well,
have any,
yeah,
you don't
well,
have any control.
you have no authority. Well, they don't have authority. Just like way back 2020 when President Trump, they did all this on purpose. But talking about Nancy Pelosi called off the National Guard. Nancy Pelosi, no congressman or woman has any authority, say so whatsoever, no matter who they are, on any military whatsoever, especially the District of Columbia. The District of Columbia National Guard operate directly under the commander in chief. So see little things like that. So when you look at the military and you look at all these liberals out there, these are all constitutional laws. Where they deemed unconstitutional is when Congress. Why haven't Congress, not a single Congress member has deemed anything President Trump unconstitutional? And then the key thing that shuts all that up, a Democratic House introduced the war order under President Trump in 2019. That shows you right out that is your war order. Until that is terminated, until that is rescinded, it is still ongoing. And the continuity of government executive order shows we're in a partial continuity of government, which means we're on the better half now. We're through the worst part. We're on the end. So that right there alone shows this is all pre-planned because presidential emergency action documents are pre-drafted, ladies and gentlemen. There's 4 ways military pairs with federal: executive orders, proclamations, national emergencies, treaties. All right. They're pre-drafted. Well, guess what the 4 components of a PED is? So executive orders, national, same thing. Treaties, proclamations, the same 4 components. All right. So when you have a PED, you have a continuity of government. That's how Eisenhower established it. And the one other thing that puts the icing on the cake is this. I just showed that on my pages again. The National Security Presidential Memorandums. President Trump has 2 of those. All right. So you got to go back. I pulled in Obama's for a certain reason. It wasn't a national security presidential memorandum from this man. All right. It just shows, though, that Obama had it was a order of succession. All right. President Trump, 2017, order of succession. 2025, order of succession. Quote unquote, Joe, his is not titled an NSPM-2. All right. But there is one that they put under, like the 2021, I think it was. I have to go back and look at the year. It don't have an order of succession. It just says what they are to do, like what a national security memorandum is. All right. So how come every other president besides Joe has had a national security strategy? The last national security strategy on the Department of Defense right now is 2017, President Trump. There's been no White House military office, which that's your logistics, ladies and gentlemen. You've seen Marine One and Air Force One, but there's no White House military office. That's the logistics of those, the travel of the president. All right, that shows you we're in a military operation. All right, well, that NSPM-2, again, go back to it. That is a continuity of government. You can Google that. You go, is a national security presidential memorandum for continuity of government? Yes.
Well, and I think it's fascinating because I mean we look back over some of the Biden time frame. You saw fake airplanes with him going into the into some back section. I mean, no idea because you don't actually walk into an airplane, into a presidential airplane or Air Force One in that particular section. And only with
they
Trump,
call it the ass. They call it the ass of the plane, right? And it's really it looks like the belly on the front. But the Hill, the Guardian, they put out an article way back and it said Obama was snubbed today by the Chinese. He had to walk out the ass into the plane. Well, go look at it. It's the same spot
everyone
that Biden walked out every time. All right. People say, well, it's easier to walk up those stairs. I'm like, no, there's still stairs. He could have tripped on those. It has nothing to do with that. Like nothing to do with that.
And I think that's when you realize, wait a second. And I think what, as we're kind of framing out the end of this thing is what Derek's telling you a little bit about is that sometimes it's like we're flying, a Huey, about 500 feet of the ground. We're going, this is all messy. And I go, can we just get up about 20,000 feet and kind of look down and go, oh, that's pretty organized. Because one of my favorite things, Stephen Ambrose wrote Band of Brothers and other ones with that too. And one of the things that you go back on is one of the most deep military operations was D-Day. And they had that thing down to, I mean, they were landing, or they were coming out of airplanes for the 82nd Airborne, the 101st. They were coming out on a particular spot. And they were trying to land in a particular spot. Once they started to figure out, the exact readings, they were going, you know what? I think we're going to land in Normandy. It was only a few of them that could figure this out with that. So I would say, that was planned months to years earlier. Now it got adjusted because of weather issues in the last couple of days, but that's what happens in military. You sometimes have to, adjust the days here and there with that too. But here's the thing: what you need to see, and what Derek's talking about, and that's why I have his. You can go look at his books, because he's got some real kind of cool books out there. Is that this had to be planned, but it had to be constitutional, and it had to be legal all the way through and through.
Well, and the other thing about planning, I mean, yeah, you can always, we have long-term plans, short-term plans, long-term goals, short-term goals, but then, yeah, you get in it, things do change, but they call it flanking, and sometimes retreating don't mean that you're retreating the wrong way. You just back up and you flank, you move around, but in an actual battle. But like you're talking about, the 40,000 foot view, 20,000 foot view is, it's so, I don't know. I mean, like I said, you can't see anything else divine, biblical, monumental, historical, because again, like that's what separates. And I hate highlighting me in my books like that, but I'm independent, no ghostwriters, no publishers. Like this is all straight up, not just my experience, but my grandfathers and my great uncles and my dad and my uncle, all my family members, all my friends who've served. It's like knowing that language, knowing that lineage, knowing your history, knowing your foundation, knowing why you fight. All right. And it has nothing to do with, anything else but that. But I look at President Trump. I mean, he reminds me of my dad. My dad is 82. So my dad's older than President Trump. And that generation, they're goal oriented. They get things done. They're up at 5 a.m., 4 a.m. like clockwork, just on the regular. They have a built-in clock. They get things done. They're goal oriented. And they're always moving, always doing this. I always have something. So I look at it like that. And I've been honored to be around President Trump and get to see his wit, but also his calculative mind. I mean, it's a genius. And so many people that don't get to experience that, I try to live that through you or for you, with what I do. But I mean, all this it's pre-planned. It's been there. Iran, Israel, our military army publications, 2019, and it's outlined to a T. It says Gaza, Egypt, cross-border operations. Well, the MFO, you can look them up, mfo.org. Just real simple. Letter M, letter F, letter O.org. You can look up what they do. They go back and forth from Egypt to Israel, but Gaza, they've been in operations. I show them all the time. All right, all the aircraft that were in and out of Israel, just in 1 week, in 1 week's time, 1 week, October the 7th to 14th, 2023, when they said the war started. Romania, Bulgaria, Nigeria, Tunisia, Algeria, New Zealand, Colombia, Argentina, United States, Canada, Mexico, Norway, Sweden, Germany, Thailand, Japan, Russia, Ukraine. What's Russia and Ukraine doing both in Israel? All right, when they were supposed to be in a war with each other. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This is all military, right? And so showing people what's going on the bigger picture is better right now than and if you're tripping up on the intricacies, well, you're tripping up on the things that could be a distraction, but that's special operations. But when you have an outline, again, it's not like a broken record. When you have a pure-fledged outline of a military occupation, continuity government, if you don't know what they are, you need to understand those. If you do what they are and you're still tripping up, then you need to go study special operations. All right, unconventional warfare, guerrilla warfare. President John F. Kennedy was the connoisseur of guerrilla warfare. He was the one who wrote a letter and said, we're moving into a new age, new era, new everything. After Eisenhower already had his speech of the military-industrial complex, all right, President JFK, in our 2023, as we speak, you can Google this when you get off this podcast, as finish the rest of the podcast, right? The 2023 Special Operations Command, Renaissance. The only person who's mentioned the word Renaissance is President Trump. Renaissance publication. At the very bottom of it, they put JFK's letter in there about guerrilla warfare. Now, guerrilla warfare, again, is one of those things. Unconventional warfare, irregular warfare, guerrilla warfare, clandestine operations, covert. If the good guys are in control of that, it's a good thing. When the bad guys are in control of that, it's not a good thing, right? So those things can go both ways. So it depends on who's in control. Same thing with AI right now. Every commander that I've been on with, we get asked, what's our greatest threats right now? It's AI. But if we're in control of it, it's going to be good. But if the others get control of it and we don't do anything about it, it's going to be bad, right? So everything that we're in right now has a good and bad. But if we're in control of it, it's going to be good. If others are, it's going to be bad. So that's why everybody has a part to play in society, and that discernment we were talking about, logic and reasoning. You got to get to that discernment and logic and reasoning. Logic, reasoning, discernment will not be you getting upset over the little smallest hiccup that's out there, because it may be a distraction with special operations, all right? Or it could be pre-planned in another kind of way, not a distraction, but actual part of the operation to either capture more of those that are roaming free. The gravest threat is the one who can talk the same language, but they're all on surface. They're just doing that as a surface. So that's why it takes
people. That's why the military would have had to take those guys out pretty quick. Those would be that one there too. Hey, thanks, Derek. I really appreciate you coming on. I mean, I've got some other ideas that we could always, bring up too. I mean, one of my favorite ones to talk about is that time frame between, was it November of 2020 all the way to January 6th to January 20th. Was still one of my areas. I think that we're going to have to pick that one apart someday. You've done a little bit more on the January 20th. But I think that we should have a little conversation about the up to January 6th and see what happens with that too.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be fun.
Easy.
All right. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And that's why, we have Rattletrap 1776. You can kind of check it out. Go look at some of the stuff, because it's got great information on there. And I'm actually in process right now revamping my website too. So thanks so much. I appreciate you. We'll talk to you later.
See ya.